Hey, good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We're running a little bit behind, but I'll go ahead and leave the camera and microphone so y'all can participate. Let us know. Back to you. Okay. Yes. So I interviewed and introduced each one, and each one gets 3 minutes. Is that how it goes? Then are we doing questions at the end of those? Yes, sir. Exactly. I think that's what, well, okay. No, I thought okay. I said all three of the dates. I just want to crank on through.
Yes.
Why is that chair?
I don't know why this chair is there. Where's Dan? Dan. No, fine.
I do not fix it.
Okay. Is there
Me too. Well, I saw Duty Storm this week, right? That was one of the ones that came out. So, thank you. First and foremost, congratulations. Absolutely. Well, we appreciate it. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Well, actually,
Okay.
the number,
I'll have to check it out.
but something about that period, so they're not going to allow. So, what we're going to do, everyone,
Get some for our. Nice to meet you, Judy. We'll see you soon.
I'm going to take.
How are you? Ryan, how are you? Great.
I'm going to be tired, but I need to. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, may I have everyone's attention, please? If I could have all of the candidates to come down front for just a moment, I would really appreciate it. I need to speak with each of you. If you could come down front for just a moment. Thank you. And right after that, we're going to get started. We're already 5 minutes late. Everyone will go through, and it will be 3 minutes for each of you when Grant introduces. Okay? Some where there are more than one person running for that office, he'll introduce the office, call all of the names off, and then we'll come up one by one after. We will have a few minutes in between and at the end of the first session for the live auction. There are only 3 items in the live auction, so then we go into the fish bowl. Okay? The first part of the program is so that people get to know your name, get to know all. The second part of the fish bowl is where people get to know what you're all about. We have these questions and topics where fishbowl operation is all sit. Try to do a circle with real estate board, so we don't have enough room to do a circle. So what we're going to do is kind of a horseshoe. Our moderator, who walked around here somewhere, he is going to, Michael, no, for the fishbowl. For the fishbowl, what will happen is he's going to pull out questions or a topic. He'll select one of you. You'll start. And then each of you, if you want to join in, you have a comment or an expression that or a feeling about that particular topic, then you are more than welcome to join into that conversation. I encourage all of you, because we're live streaming this event. This is your chance today, with whether it is a traveler or whether you are on the ticket with someone. It is your chance to get a part of your message out on some of the and it will be arranged. This Michael talking to my son. He's a student, an engineering student at Philander Smith. He's going to be the fishbowl monitor. Topic pulled out. Why are blue ties good for the Democratic Party? Jay. And then Jay will make his statements. Then maybe Judy will have something to say about blue ties. And then Jesse will have something to say about blue ties. And Dr. Bland will have something to say about blue ties. He may say, we should have white ties, not blue ties.
So I want a picture of that. I missed it last night.
So that's how the fishbowl will run. We're going to run through those questions. So I encourage you to have something to say. I encourage you to have your say, sure. And then we can get on to as many. See, we have 10 different topics, but we don't have 10 hours to cover. So what I want you to do is to get in there, have your say, then he'll pull another one out, then he'll go to Josh. He'll pull another one out, go to Dave. He'll pull another one out and go to work, and so on and so on and so on. At some point, you're going to see me tell him, cut it off. It will be either cut off that particular topic. It's gone long enough. It will be time for us to end. Okay? But keep your comments about whatever it is, make them sharp and make. Okay? It's an opportunity for not only you, for us. I need the people to see and hear and know who you are, what you're about, what you have to bring to this office. Whatever office it is. Okay? Whatever you need to do, 60 seconds, we're starting. Okay?
All right, everyone, looks like we're starting in 60 seconds.
Anything on the program to the very end, I'm going to tell you thank you and let the door not meet you with a good Lord speech. Moderating the first part will be granted in our sole chair. The second part will be please one.
Yes, sir.
Let's not. If you don't have a program, and I can get one.
Yes, sir.
I'm signed in.
It's a long event, 6 and 10. A long event. Yeah, I think we let.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 30 seconds to showtime. Pleasure to meet you. Mark, pleasure to meet you. Thank you for being here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go adjust. I'm going to adjust to so we'll just take a minute. If anyone would like a number to bid in the silent auction, if you want a number to bid in the silent auction, please go to the back of the room and see Donna. Her hand is waving in the air in the blue dress. Sound test. 1, 2, 3.
Good afternoon, everyone. Would you mind standing and joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag Thank you. You may be seated. I'm Karen Garcia. I am a city director representing District 5, which is the south part of Hot Springs, and I'm currently also serving as deputy mayor. Our Republican mayor could be here, and I'm very happy to welcome everyone here today. I love seeing all these great smiling faces, and I'm honored to have all of these great candidates. So exciting. The Democrats are alive, and we're just kicking off the season for this to go and grow through November. You know, one of the things about being a city official, a fun thing, without all the complaints we receive, is sometimes we get to present special awards. And I would like to ask our other city director that's here, Erin Holiday, to join me on the stage. She is District 1, representing this area in the north part of town. And our, our great chairman from the Arkansas Democratic Party has graciously agreed to come down and visit with us, and he'll be moderating, and he will be doing our live auction. If you don't have a number, make sure you get over here and see the things for the silent auction. But I want Grant to stand, please. Has been long known for its great healing waters. As far back as the 1500s, after the Native Americans had discovered the waters, Hernando de Soto and the Spaniards were here looking for the fountain of life. And they were also searching for gold. Well, when Arkansas Democrats elected Grant Tennille as the chair of the Democratic Party of Arkansas, we found gold. We're awarding him the City of Hot Springs Descendant of the Soto Award. And we know he's going to be traveling all over Arkansas. And as chairman, he'll be representing Arkansas all across the country. Wherever he goes now, he has to boast and invite people to Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Most days I feel like I need the helmet.
And I'd like Aaron to also join in the welcoming you here today.
Come back and get a seat.
Okay.
She wants you to be man and model. In our live auction, I wanted to announce that this year the Virginia Clinton Keller Democratic Women are celebrating 30 years, their 30-year anniversary. BCK earrings over there that we want someone to take home with them. And it'd be a nice gift for the BCK president, wouldn't it? Also, we have Democratic Party donkey earrings. You want to see them. But Brent will tell you later that the state party is going to be down here on April 2nd for a meeting. And on April 1st, we're hosting a No Fools party because it's going to be the winning circle of Democrats. It'll be Friday night, April 1st. It'll be a dinner. It'll be music, dancing if you like, and a good time with all Democrats. So, bear on that. Everybody up to 50 people now can bid whatever you put your name on, you're committing to come to the party. And we want to fill up the house. So, Erin, would you mind?
Thank you, Karen. And I'm going to ask for a round of applause for Karen Garcia, because she is one of the hardest working Democrats. I am honored to serve with her and serve this amazing community in Hot Springs as District 1 City Director. Like we said, you guys are in District 1. So first of all, if you're not from Hot Springs or not from this district, welcome to my community, to our community, and especially welcome all of these people behind me. It's wonderful to get so many candidates who value what we have to say, value our votes, and are here. And so that's what I wanted to first and foremost say is welcome and thank you to all of you. I also want to thank, I don't know where she is, but right here, Christine Artemowski. This is her place. What do you think? Wonderful. And I think that this building is a little bit of a testament to how amazing Hot Springs is. Christine is a transplant and is investing in our community, and that says a lot about Arkansas, about Hot Springs. So a little bit of housekeeping real quick, just a reminder, cell phones, we hear this all the time, make sure that they're on silent. or at least on vibrate, so we can make sure to hear all of our candidates. If you need the restroom, it's through the double doors. It might be a little bit hard to find, but there are 2 restrooms through those double doors. Also, there's coffee back there, snacks in the blue bags. Again, keep an eye on the auction. We want to make sure that we raise a lot of money today, and there's some really great things that have been donated over there. We'll have a live auction here in a little bit as well. I also want to turn your attention over here, right behind Mr. Umberbeer. We have an exhibit of African-American artwork. We have community members who have loaned us artwork, and we wanted to make sure that there was some representation of the arts community, specifically during Black History Month. So please take a moment to look at that. They are not for sale or for auction. They're just to appreciate and love. But we did want to make sure that we had that presence here today as well. So with that being said, you know, I'm sure all of you will vote. If you're not registered to vote, you can do that here, but definitely show up. Vote, if you can donate, and if you can volunteer, because we have had a brutal few years, and we're gonna have a hard next few months, and we wanna make sure that everyone on the stage does well, and we wanna make sure that we flip seats and that we have a very strong Democratic presence in our local, state, and federal legislature. So thank you again for being here, and I have no idea who's next, to be perfectly honest. Okay, James Lowry is, where are you? Oh, pardon me for that. So, welcome, Mr. James Lowry. Thank you guys so much.
Hello, Democrat. Hello. First of all, I didn't know what I was really going to say when you're introducing a legend. I met Elmer Beard, first personal. I met him about 12 years ago. And I moved here from a state that was extremely progressive. So when I moved here, I seen some things and I said, I want to see change now. And Elmer Beard told me, we're going to slow your roll a little bit. That's not just going to happen here in Arkansas. You have to take it a little bit slow. But anyway, on his accolades, there's me. And if I had to sit here and tell you how many it were, I would be here for 20 minutes, and we don't want to stay here that long. But anyway, Elmer Beard, you may know Elmer Beard as a long-time Democratic member of the Democratic Party. You might also know him as a 2-year term Hot Springs City Council member. You might also know him as, what was that thing called? I can't remember what it was now, but I'll pass over that right now. Election Commission. No, it was another one, long before. When we used to be ran by a city government. I'll think of it. But anyway, he has also wrote 2 books. The first book was The Challenger. And what it did was it kind of gave a rundown of all African American leaders in this county, and maybe some within the state. And his latest one was Let Reason Roll, which is his latest one, which you will have over there at the table. And one thing you may not also know that Elmer Beard was, he sat on the board for the Arkansas Black Farmers Commission of Arkansas. And he was instrumental in helping Black farmers keep their farms and to get money for them once their farms were taken to get it back or to compensate them. So without further ado, I introduce to you Mr. Elmer Beard.
Thank you very much. My assignment is to give some notes on voting rights in America, voting rights in the state of Arkansas, and remind us of some historical facts that we should be aware of if we are a candidate for public office. We should know that the 15th Amendment is ratified by saying the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of race, color, previous condition of servitude. That excluded women in 1870. Supposedly that meant that all people could vote in 1970. But if you were maybe African American, you were very, very light skinned and you possibly could pass, you could vote. Other similar things like that. I want to point that out because I will be rushing going through this, and I want you to find out as much as you can about this. I have this information here in print and ink. I'll give you a copy of it if I can run off 100 copies of it today. Let me move on. After 1870 up to 1919, women had the right to vote in Arkansas if they were white. But if they were not white, neither they could vote if they were Republican or if their boss, the person for whom they were working, would allow them to vote. That changed in 1965 with the Voting Rights Act that you're familiar with, and you'll think from the Voting Rights Act that passed, that followed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which followed many years of demonstration that I would encourage and pray that you would continue in some form today, 2020. Those demonstrations need to continue in the United States of America for the purpose of erasing racism in America, because I have studied it, and I'm 83 now, 84. The book is 83 poems, and it's about me, and so I was 83 when I wrote it, so I forget that, but I'm going on 85. It'll be April 14th, I'll be 85. The point I want to make here as I rushingly go through this is that we should try to erase racism when it comes to voting, because you are here running for public office, and you're behind that it doesn't exist. That includes brothers and sisters. It still exists, and you are responsible for helping erase it as you go on trying to win your office. The less you know about it, the worse off and the worse you're going to lose. So I share that with you because I've held public office for 50 years, 5 months, 20 days, 30 minutes. I know what I'm talking about. Now, in the state of Arkansas, before I take my seat, this doesn't encourage us. We are either at the bottom of number 3 form, the bottom for turning out to vote. It's because of so many things that I won't even have to relate to you. And I pray that you would help us to remove those things as you sit behind me and in front of me, and as you strive for running for public office, some of you for the first time. As I take my seat, I've had experience in this business, men and women. I ran for city alderman one time, and I got reelected 7 times. And in the city of Hot Springs, to get rid of me, the change of the form of government was changed. And then I ran for mayor 4 times, and they never forgot me because of that. They have respect for me that they have today. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Lee Crawford, and I'm the chair of the Garland County Democrat Party, and I would like to thank everyone for coming out today on their Sunday to spend time with us. And I would like to thank all the candidates from coming to Hot Springs from all around Arkansas to talk to all the guests and members. And hopefully we will turn Arkansas blue this November. And at this time, I would like to introduce the chair of the Arkansas Democratic State Party, Grant Tennille.
Thank you, Lee. And I'd like to add my thanks to the chorus, particularly to the candidates for being here today. Really quickly, before we get started, I did want to share one thought with you. I am incredibly proud of this group of candidates for a number of reasons. One of which is because you heard I'm a baby chairman, and this is my first class of candidates. So you always, I'm a parent, I shouldn't say this out loud, but you know, at first when there's something about it, you just love it. You love it. But I'm proud of them for another reason, and that is that, as you all have probably guessed, this is not a very easy time to put your name on the ballot. And we didn't have to go looking for these guys. they came and found us. And this week, as I've been looking around the state and talking to people, I've heard from a lot of Democrats who have told me, like many do now, it's too hard. But some of them have said, and that's why I've decided to run as a Republican. Being a Democrat's not a math problem for me. I didn't triangulate my way here. I'm a Democrat because of the things that I believe. And I bet some of you all are too. It may be tough, but we're going to fight. We're going to fight because there's a group of people who doesn't know the first thing about freedom, that wants to be in charge of telling all the rest of us what freedom is. We're going to fight because there are people in this state who are not treated the same way by the law as I am. We're going to fight because there are families that want to make choices together with their children about the kind of life that child wants to lead and who that child is. And we've got a group of people who want to come together inside the Capitol and interfere with those decisions. There's a group of people in charge of this state and its economy that want to ensure that poverty is a life sentence. If you're not mad yet, I don't know what we're waiting. This is going to be hard. We've got the right guys. Because as I said, they didn't wait. I didn't have to call them and ask them to run. They stood up because they know it's time. So it's time for all of the rest of us to stand up and get behind them. It starts right now, this instant. It's about being on the phone. It's about knocking on doors. It's about grabbing that money wherever you can get it and shoveling it towards these candidates. We've got to get the word out. We've got to start to make people reckon with the stupid decisions they're making every day. So, I'm going to call the name of all the candidates in the category here, and then bring them up one at a time. They will have 3 minutes to address you. We are going to start with the candidates for governor, Dr. Anthony Bland and Jay Martin. James Russell, who I saw on Twitter, was sick yesterday and probably still is, so it doesn't look like he's going to make it with us. So with that, Dr. Bland.
Hello, my fellow Democrats. How are you all today? Let's get excited. We're getting ready to turn this state blue, right? This is our moment. This is our time. Enough is enough. We've let Republicans run this state long enough. It's been red long enough. We've turned it blue before, and it's time to turn it blue again. It's time for our students in our schools to get a great education. It's time for our elderly to not worry about their prescription drugs or their health care. It's time for us to have a real life despite of the political ideas of the people in office, right? Y'all are not as excited as I am, I guess. I'm Dr. Bland, and I ran for lieutenant governor in 2018. We got 292,000 votes. That let us know that Democrats are ready for change. They're ready. Now it's time to be vocal with your vote. Get out and vote. Get out and get other people registered to vote and get them to vote. There's a lot of people that get them registered to vote, and then all of a sudden, okay, they're registered, there it is. We'll set up tables, register people to vote, then we don't talk to them anymore. Well, guess what? We need to take them to the polls. Get out to vote. That's what GOTV means, right? I believe in all our candidates. I was born here, I was raised here, and I believe in everybody that's in this state. And in order to make a difference, we have to come together. We have to unify. Division has to get thrown out the window. Throw it out the window. And that's what they want us to do. They want us to divide. They want us not to come and unify together. They want us to start talking about one another and stabbing each other in the back. But that's not what Democrats are about. We're about people. I love every last one of you in this room, everybody in this state. That's why I'm running. If you want to talk more, because I know I have very limited time, I would love to talk with you. My website, AnthonyBlandForAR.com. Reach out to us. Let's talk. Let's have a real conversation. I need your vote. I need your financial support. And I need your voice to go out and tell other people about us. We love you. God bless you.
Jaylen?
Well, I'm dropping things. Guys, thank you so much for having me today. Let me just thank again Aaron and Karen for your service to this community. It means a lot. And Reverend Laurie, that was very nice. And I tell you what, Mr. Beard, what an incredible record of service. I see a couple of people I served with in the state legislature. In 2005, I was elected majority leader in the Arkansas House of Representatives. When I started in the House of Representatives, we had 70 out of 100 Democrats. When I was elected that year, we had 72 out of 100. And when I finished as majority leader, we had 75 out of 100 Democrats in the Arkansas House of Representatives. Dr. Roebuck's here. He was one of the members that was in that class. Thank you for your service, Dr. Roebuck. And the amazing things, guys, that was 2005. That wasn't the 90s. That wasn't the last century. That wasn't that long ago. The power of imagination is incredible. And we have given up the power to imagine what our state can be if it is run the right way. Imagination can put people on the moon. It can win world wars. It can give us the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of 1964. And it can turn Arkansas around once and forever. So imagine for just a moment with me, 10 years from now, 10 years from now, just a decade from now, where we could be. I'm dreaming, guys. I'm imagining stuff. Imagine that kids graduate from high school and they have a bank account with money in it because there was courses in school that taught them how to handle money. Imagine that. Imagine that they graduated from incredible schools, A+, second to none schools. Imagine that we partnered with public and private and businesses, and so that technical colleges and businesses are working together and they're investing money in students who want to go into that trade and they got a job when they get out. And instead of going to Texas, they go to Arkadelphia or they go to the Delta. And we work with our federal delegation and our president, and we start the process of decentralizing the federal government. All of the offices, so many are in Washington, Maryland, and Virginia. Imagine the cost savings if we could have some of those offices, ag offices in the Delta. Imagine the opportunities. Arkansas is last in federal public sector jobs. That's got to change. We're going to develop our economy. When teams start winning games, everyone gets happy. You win games in state government by lifting the economy. We're not going to forget where people are. I dreamed of a place in Little Rock, Amelia Diaz housing projects, where there were kids that were there that were trapped in poverty and all kinds of problems. And in March 16, 1998, I was working for Judge Marion Humphrey, and I felt led to this neighborhood to simply go there and to see if a change could be made. I met kids like BJ, Nick, Glenn, and Randy, Montez, kids that I was able to be a father to the fatherless. And that was 98. Today, I'm still there. And if you went there in 98, it was the worst place in Little Rock. Today, it's a nice place. There were first-time homeowners' homes there because the city decided to invest in this part of the city again. And people have their first homes. Just a little further up, the old World War II barrack-style homes that existed. Now there are bright, shiny, new apartments that are subsidized for people to live. We've got to address affordable housing. We've got to address homelessness. There are so many things that we can do together if we have the right team. Can you imagine what we could do with 75 out of 100 Democrats in the House of Representatives? And we had in the 20s in the Senate. And all of the federal delegation were Democrats. How soon things change. But I'm telling you guys, stick with me. Go to my website, jmartinforarkansas.org. We can turn this around. And it's my goal to do that. Thank you so much.
Kelly Craft, Lieutenant Governor.
I like how you just said Kelly Kraut, Lieutenant Governor, like you're just speaking it into existence. Kelly Kraut for Lieutenant Governor, just, let's go ahead and call it. No, I'm Kelly, I'm running for Lieutenant Governor because Arkansas deserves leaders who are willing to do the right thing. Very simple to me. I'm a mom, I'm a former foster parent, I'm an author, and I'm finishing up my graduate degree in social work this semester. My husband and I live in Northwest Arkansas, and we have 7 children. I do realize that is a whole lot of children, but it has made me incredibly efficient, and I think is part of the reason I could do a really good job with this position. One of the most educational experiences of my life has been serving as a foster parent. We have so many families in our state who are swimming upstream, and they deserve dignity, guidance, and grace, and we can all be a part of the solution. I tell my kids all the time, if everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot. And I really, truly believe that. It was never more obvious to me working within the system how clunky it is and difficult to navigate as I was helping one of my foster sons try to get in good standing with the law. He was an older teenager, he had a minor drug charge, and he had missed a court date. So now he has a failure to appear warrant. Now he's lost his license and is gonna have to pay $200 to reinstate it. He did not have a job, and it was incredibly overwhelming to try to figure out where do we even start to help this kid get back on his feet. It would have been impossible for a teenage boy to navigate alone. And this is just one example of one government system that's not working as efficiently as it could. Has anyone been to the DMV recently? We can do better than this. You deserve a leader who can help advocate to improve systems while helping people navigate systems at the same time. I've got 7 kids. I'm really good at multitasking. I'm Kelly Kraut, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I'm looking forward to getting to speak with more of you and hear what questions you've got later. Thank you.
Josh Price.
Good afternoon, Democrats. It's so good to be here. My name is Josh Price, and I am running for Secretary of State to protect our constitutional right to vote. Thank you. So one thing I love about being in Hot Springs is I feel like I'm coming home because I used to live in Hot Springs. So I went to St. Michael's Catholic School. I'm not sure if it's still there, from 4th and 5th grade. My mom worked at the hospital in the labor delivery, and my dad worked at St. Joseph, and he was also a nurse. So a little bit about me. I grew up in a small town called Delight, southwest Arkansas, Pike County, so not too far from here. And we kind of worked our way up the freeway, lived in Arkadelphia for a while, and then Hot Springs for a while, and then finally made it to Little Rock in 1991. But it always feels so much like home to be down here with all these good Democrats, like Aaron and Karen and all my crew here. So it's just so, the robots, love being here with y'all. But just a little bit about me. The reason I'm running for this position, number one, I got into public service because my grandmother was my inspiration. My grandmother on my dad's side was the first woman to serve as Justice of the Peace in Pike County. And I would be remiss with it being Black History Month not to mention this, but she would officiate weddings for African Americans in her home during segregation when they weren't allowed to use certain public buildings. And I found out later that she received death threats from the community for doing that. But she was serving the people, and she said, you know what, I'm gonna do what's right, even if it's not easy, even if it's hard, we're gonna do what's right. And that's something that always stuck with me. My mom is a nurse from the Philippines. She was recruited to come over here in 1972 when there was a lack of nurses here in America. There still is. President Marcos was the president over there. His wife had all those shoes. Y'all remember that? But something about that, she would always tell me that when she came over to the United States, they had declared martial law. The president stayed in power 21 years. He liked being there. He stayed there. This sounds familiar, right? There was an election, but his name was the only name on the ballot. People started protesting, having rallies. He instituted a 9 o'clock curfew. Tanks and soldiers going up and down the streets at night. You had to be home by 9 o'clock, or you could be shot in the street because you must be up to no good. No newspaper for 3 years. 2 TV stations that were government controlled. So when she had the chance to come over here to Murfreesboro, Arkansas, she said, I don't know where that is, but that's in the United States, and that means I'm going to have the right to vote. I'm going to have the right to have freedom of speech. So are my future children. And that always stuck with me. So when I saw this last election, I served as an election commissioner in Pulaski County. I was the only Democrat on the commission. So Pulaski County, largest county in the state, bluest county in the state, 400,000 people, 13% of the state's population. But the Republicans really, really attacked Pulaski County through the majority on the election commission because they knew that if they can repress people's votes, if they can make it harder for people to vote, if fewer people come out and vote, they can control and manipulate the outcome of those elections, and they can stay in power. And this is what this is about, y'all. These elections are so critical. We've been talking about voting. Arkansas is dead last in the country in voter registration. Dead last, 63%. Dead last in voter turnout, 54%. Number 1 in rejection of mail-in ballots at 6.4%. In most states in the country, rejection of mail-in ballots is 1% or less. So we have the worst experience for voters in the entire U.S. here in Arkansas, whether you're voting in person or by mail. I was with Jesse in Yell County last year. They told us they had 25 polling locations. It's been reduced to 11. And some people have to drive 30 miles just to go vote. And 30 miles in Yell County, that's going to take you a while on those roads. But this is what the Republicans are doing. This is what they're doing to repress people's right to vote. And when I was on the election commission, I saw some things that were so mind-boggling. I saw secret meetings getting called without me, over Zoom with only a 30-minute notice, so votes could be thrown out. I saw 1,500 ballots in Pulaski County get thrown out because of a missing zip code, a missing apartment number. People signed J. Price instead of Josh Price. Any little issue, any little human error, they were going to toss those votes out. And that's just not right. So I'm running for Secretary of State to make sure that every Arkansan can get out there, whether it's to the polls or voting by mail, and their vote's going to be counted, their vote's going to have fair and equal consideration, and every single voice could be heard. So I'm looking forward to talking to you more about this. I've got a lot of information on my website. I've got a whole detailed platform on there. I'm going to get people registered to vote. I want to implement voting vans, work with the library system, travel the state, get people registered where they are. I want to tie in our systems to the DMV, so when you go vote, your ID can just pop up on the tablet. So there you go, added layer of security and an added layer of convenience. But these are things we can make some changes in Arkansas to get us out of dead last. Make sure every Arkansan has that equal right to go to the polls. So find me at joshforarkansas.com. Social media is Josh for Arkansas. Emails josh@joshforarkansas. Pretty easy to find. And looking forward to talking to you all later. And remember, the price is right for Arkansas. Thank you very much.
Has Natalie James arrived? No. Okay. Candidate for U.S. Senate, Dan Whitfield.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Whitfield, Democratic candidate for United States Senate. I'm running against Senator John Bost. Now, I'm a regular working class Arkansan. I work in information technology. I'm very driven with data and analytics. I'm a professional troubleshooter and problem solver. And these are the kinds of things that I really believe we need to bring to the United States. We hear about voting rights. We hear about all these different problems we're having at the state level, but we can really bring big affecting change at the federal level. Some of the things that we can do in that aspect is we can have federal voting rights. We can make sure that every single person in America is registered to vote automatically when they turn 18, which is going to solve a lot of the problems that we are seeing already with voter registration. We can make sure that people living in homes can effectively actually fill out absentee ballots, not have to show proof of ID, because a lot of people who lived their entire lives serving in our society don't have the ability to get an actual ID anymore, and they should be able to sign affidavits saying who they are to be able to vote. But voting rights is what we really need to look at the federal level, and our state legislators are going to do everything they can to take away our rights at the state level. That's why it's so important that we pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the For the People Act. And we're only going to do that if we elect Democrats to the United States Senate. There are a lot of other things that are really important to me at the federal level that I believe we can do here in Arkansas. Federal renters' rights is extremely important. A lot of people don't understand that Arkansas is the only state in America where there are no renters' rights. We tried to get some renters' rights passed, but the real estate lobbyists came in, watered it down, and we still are not there. So we need a senator representing the state of Arkansas to come in and submit federal renters' rights, making sure that every single habitant here has a livable dwelling where they don't have to worry about mold and roaches and rats, where they don't have to worry about undrinkable water, and where they don't have to worry about whether or not their heater's going to work when it's -5 degrees out. And then at the same time, if they decide that they're not going to pay rent because it's -5 out and their heater doesn't work and their landlord is not returning their call, so I'm not going to pay rent, well, then they can go to jail. So we need to really focus on these issues that we're facing here in Arkansas at the federal level. Now, I'm a progressive Democrat. I've got a lot of really good ideas. I believe that we need to put people before profits. That's why healthcare is my number one. We know what the number one cause of bankruptcy is here in America. The number one cause, 60% of all bankruptcies are because of medical debt, and 70% of those people have medical insurance. They're going to work, they're paying high premiums, deductibles, and copays. They get sick and they lose everything. We know what the problem is. We need to address this problem, and we need to do that by switching to a healthcare for all system, which is going to save people money. It's going to save our nation over $390 billion and tens of thousands of Americans' lives. There are so many important policies that I would love to talk with you about. Unfortunately, we're going to be here talking about fun stuff. So I'm excited to go over that in a little bit. And what I really want to talk about is what really makes me unique and why I believe I'm so important to this Democratic ticket this year. Some of y'all may know that I ran as an independent against Senator Tom Cotton in 2020. Went through some crazy legal battles, and unfortunately, the Attorney General was able to push our ballot access hearing until March of 2021 after the election. Now, running as an independent, I got to do something unique. I built a diverse coalition of supporters. I have independent supporters, Democratic supporters, Republican supporters, Republicans that I've talked to that have never voted for a Democrat in their life, and they're willing to vote for a Democrat for the first time. And I'm going to do my part and my job to bring these supporters to vote for the entire Democratic ticket for the first time. And that's how we're going to win. Because it's uncomfortable to think about, but the truth and the reality is if a Democrat has support from all the Democrats but nobody else, they're going to lose every single time. We've got to get independents and Republicans voting for Democrats if we're going to win this election. I am going to do that, and that's why almost every single person sitting here is going to win in November. But my website, I'll stop there. I'll let you guys know.
Candidate for State Senate, Courtney McKee.
Good afternoon. How is everybody? Thank you all so much for coming. It's so great to be here today. I see so many people that I recognize as friends. and so many that I know I'm gonna meet and recognize as friends. It's just great to be with Democrats, right? My name is Courtney McKee, and I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you all for coming here, and thank you all for giving me this opportunity to stand here, because I know that some people would give me credit for standing up and saying, you know, I'm gonna run, even though it's hard. But to be honest, this is where I belong, guys. This is where I belong. I was born and raised here, by a working class family. I got my associate's degree at Phillips Community College in Stuttgart, Arkansas. And later I went to the University of Arkansas at Little Rock and got my bachelor's degree in political science. So as I'm telling you guys, I belong here, right? So, and last year, I was able to go back to UALR and get a graduate certificate in nonprofit management and a master's in public administration. Thank you. It was a lot of work. I work in Hot Springs at Lookout Point Inn, the most beautiful hotel in the whole city and probably the whole state. I'm very happy to work there. I love everybody that I work with. I love working in that environment with people because, you know, that's what we are. We're Democrats and we love people, right? So I'm working there and I love my job, but I'd like to use my degree, and I think that you guys would like me to too. You know, it's crazy. The state legislature is just crazy. There's absolutely no way I couldn't not run. There's no way I can't. Yeah, people will say, you know, it's going to be an uphill battle. You might not win. Well, I have the courage to lose. But what's more important is the courage to win. Because if you don't have the courage to win, then you're not even going to try. And there's too much at stake. There's too much at stake. So, again, thank you all. It's a privilege being here talking to you. I'd love to talk to you more. Come and find me. And just thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Candidate for Attorney General Jeffrey Gibson. The future of the Democratic Party is strong. How do we know that? I've got 3 great reasons why I know that. The first is 70 degrees and sunny outside in the middle of racing season, and we have a full house listening to Democratic candidates talk about how they're going to run their race. So kudos to all of you. Number 2, I have a plan to bottle the enthusiasm that Deborah Mitchell expressed last night at the King Kennedy dinner on behalf of the Arkansas Democratic Caucus. I am unapologetically a Democrat. I'm proudly a Democrat. I will always be a Democrat. I won't go the easy way and try to triangulate, as Grant said. I live and campaign on my values. I grew up on a dead-end dirt road in Boone County, Arkansas, a little town called Lead Hill. And if you know where Lead Hill is, you've got GPS or really good map. My parents were teachers, though, and they made me be serious about school. And I was able to graduate from the University of Arkansas and then from Bowen School of Law in 1999 for my law degree. Now, why do I want to be Attorney General? I think there's 2 real reasons. Number 1 was a day in my life. January 6th, when I sat in front of my computer screen and watched our Capitol stormed by people bent on violence, who killed people to try to further the goals of one man. And I remember sitting in front of my computer with tears running down my face thinking, maybe this is how America ends. Maybe this is how this grand experiment dies forever. It didn't, but we came extremely close. And it was that day that I realized I had to do something. It was that day that I realized I had to get out behind that computer screen, get out into Arkansas, meet people, have a better vision, a better plan for justice. The second reason is kind of in here. Now, maybe it was the message we received in church this morning. Maybe it's this beautiful stained glass. But please indulge me a little bit. The thing about the law that it gives me wonder every time is my involvement with what I call righteous cases. Righteous cases could be someone standing up to the big corporation, someone standing up to the Goliath, the David with the one stone and his sling, being outnumbered, outgunned, outmanned, outmoneyed, and deciding it's time to charge, it's time to fight. That's how I've practiced law for almost a quarter of a century now. I've been practicing for 23 years. And it's with representing everyday individuals like the people in this room that has brought me peace and joy in my life. In the Attorney General's office, you get to champion not just righteous cases, but righteous causes. Our righteous causes right now are protecting the right of every citizen to go to the polls and vote. That right is under attack. It is involved in litigation in court in Pulaski County. The last chapter is not written, but I promise, protecting the right to vote, even if it's to go vote against me, will always be something I take seriously. Another righteous cause is protection of the Affordable Care Act. What if we had an attorney general that instead of at every turn, instead of fighting against the Affordable Care Act that's kept rural hospitals open from Fayetteville down to Shea County, it's kept them open all across our state. What if we had an attorney general that embraced them instead of fought at every turn? What if we had an attorney general who didn't think that she was the captive law firm of a legislature run amok? The attorney general is part of the executive branch. It is there to push back and be independent and be the watchdog, the common sense arbiter, not to be a political pawn and blow with the political winds in the legislature. I'll be that independent, common sense watchdog. I will call balls and strikes. I will represent this state with vigor, but more importantly, with integrity. Our plan is for security, safety, and strength. Securing your voting rights and your rights to access health care. Safety, protecting seniors from online scammers. Working in our rural communities to battle opioid addiction by going after the people who knew that our Kansans were being harmed by the overprescription of these opioids that are just ravaging our small towns. I've lost too many friends my own age to those horrible drugs. Strength. You know, when they say integrity is doing the right thing when no one's looking, I'm appalled at what our Attorney General has done, joining lawsuits to challenge other states' elections. Going around the country trying to find ways to get the name of the paper. That's not what I want to do. I want to champion these righteous causes, but I need your help. All these candidates need your help. The last thing that made me think about why the Democratic Party is going in the right direction is these wonderful candidates. Stand with me on these righteous causes. Go to JesseGibsonForArkansas.com. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I need your help. I desperately need your help. And we can champion these righteous causes together. Thank you.
And she's here. Candidate for Commissioner of State Lands, Ms. Golda Gaines.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm just excited to be in the house. And first, I want to tell you to make sure that you continue to let your light shine, because as we look across even America and our state, we know that there are some things that are going on. And I know that over the past, we may have laid down and we missed some things. But at the same time, I know that this is the time for us to stand up and be a force like we've never been before in Arkansas. So I'm proud of my Democrats, and I want you to give yourselves a hand. Let's celebrate us right now, because our light has to shine, and I believe that our light will shine. So yes, I just want to do that first, because it's important that you know the power that you hold, and it's time for us to take our seats and make this state blue, and not only make it blue, make it operate blue. So I'm excited about that. And another thing too, I was looking over our Democrat history. I mean, I've heard about these blue dogs and then yellow dogs, and then I got this thing in the air called a silver dog. Have you guys heard of the silver dog? Okay, I want you to hear it because it's lingering in the air. It's a different breed of Democrat. I myself, I identify more with progressive Democrat. I know we have our moderates, but the deal is this. We are growing and we are manifesting and we are changing. We are evolving because we have to, according to the conditions of our state. We cannot stay in the same place. We have to grow and expand our vision and our thoughts. We have to look at our future generations to ensure that they have a stable and safe environment to live in. I'm Godie Gaines. I'm running to heal the land. Born and raised right here in Arkansas, a little place called Pulaski County. My father, an artist and a 42-year retiree of Parks and Recreations. So I had an opportunity to experience some things that children in my neighborhood wouldn't typically experience when it comes to our natural state. My mother, a nurse, always caring and giving, very active in the community and in the church. So I grew up in a home with servant leadership. That is what my parents drilled into me. You serve by leading, and you lead by doing. So that is where I come from. That came and it just saturated me. I do have a nonprofit called Anti-Poverty Group, where I focus on sustainability and community unity. I try to make a difference right there in my community. And I attended North Little Rock High, Charging Wildcat, went to Pulaski Technical College where I got my associates in science. And then I moved forward to get my MBA in business and then, my baccalaureate in business and then my MBA. I took that along with my skills in communication and advocating for the community. A fierce leader, Dr. Hezekiah Stewart, groomed me and taught me what it means to be on the front line, to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, and to visit the sick in hospitals and asylums. So as I look over our Arkansas lands, I have to run for our education, our innovation, and our accountability. So in this run to heal the land, I'm running for Commissioner's State Land to heal the land in those 3 areas. Education, as it pertains to making sure that land ownership information reaches everyone across Arkansas, and that there are no bottlenecks that will prevent that information from going forth. Innovation, in that we have 3 critical areas right now that we suffer in Arkansas: hunger, poverty, and bad health. Guess what? We have everything we need right here in the natural state to address those very issues. So I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for you to run with me in this Heal the Land move, because it's time. It's time that we address issues. Now, this seat that I'm running for, it's an impactful seat, and it will affect communities, focusing on changing education and innovation for youth. But you can learn more about me at Goldie, that's Goldi, the number 4 statelands.com. Goldie4statelands.com. Thank you.
All right, we have 3 candidates for Justice of the Peace here. Dave Reagan in District 1, Esther Dixon in District 3, and Shannon Rust in District 8. Dan Reagan will be first.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Grant and all the rest of the Democratic candidates that have put themselves out for election this year.
And along with Karen and Aaron, I would like to welcome everybody to historic and blue Garland County District 1, where I have served as full court member for the past 11 years. I was raised in Fayetteville, moved here in 1985, and started an organization called Park Avenue Community Association, which has helped revitalize an old historic neighborhood just north of here. And we started a community garden that I manage in 2013. I graduated from the University of Arkansas in 1978, and as a result was able to teach at the local community college for 28 years. I'll be very, very brief here. I just want to pay a little tribute to P.J. O'Rourke, who is a conservative columnist and humorist who said, Democrats promise everyone will be smarter, taller, richer, and the crabgrass will be removed from their lawns. Republicans say government doesn't work, and then they get elected and prove it. So let's change all of that. In the interest of time, I will bring on the next candidate.
Esther Dixon? No? Okay. Shannon Rust?
Good afternoon, everybody. It feels so good to hear a bunch of positive folks in one place together. It warms my heart. I thank you all and appreciate your support for coming here. It just makes it feel like $1,000,000. I'm a first-time candidate. I'm running for the Garland County Quorum Court, District 8. I'm running because I want to be part of the solution. I've lived with negativity for 4 years, and it just feels so good to know that we're going to do great things here in the next few years. And I decided to be a part of it. I'm not a negative person, but like you, the last 4 years were very difficult for me. I saw events I just could not comprehend. I'm running to put the negative in my rearview mirror. And all of us have a chance to be able to do that with just one another. Many times, the quote, many times we don't participate much in off-year, what we call elections. But this year seems to be a different ballgame. We all have to get out the vote. All hands on deck. I hope that's what everyone here has come for, because it's not going to change until we change it. I'll tell you a little bit about my life. This is my first time to run for office. I grew up on a farm. I learned responsibility for stock and what it takes to raise animals. And mostly I learned hard work and commitment, sometimes failure. I graduated high school. I worked and put myself through college, and it took a long time, but I got my bachelor's. Understand commitment and hard work. Again, I am here because I care. I decided I have to do something. It's in my heart. And because I'm able, as a retiree, I'm able to commit myself to the position of JP. I appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Candidate for State House in District 91, Judy Ladd.
high blood pressure pill. My new Bible. The Fight for the Soul of the Democratic Party. I suggest everybody in this room buy it or read it. It's the go-to manual about why we are in the problem or in the condition we are, and how we're going to fix it. And it's only through all of us understanding that we can't play like the Republicans. When I came to Arkansas, it was December of '54. I was 11 years old, and I didn't know what racism was. I had to ask my dad what color was the water that came out of those colored water fountains. There were white fountains and there were colored fountains. And he explained to me that it had nothing to do with the color of the water. That is how ignorant I was at the age of 11. Today, my neighbors are afraid to come over to my house because I'm white and they're black. This is 2022. Things aren't changing the way I thought they would. I've lived all over the Southwest, went to the University of Houston, I've worked with the oil companies, I'm working with you all here at the state level, at the city level, and I'm sure that Boozman and Cotton have me on speed dial. And when I call, they probably go, she's here again. But my motto is, bitchin' ain't fixin'. And I've decided I'm going to fix it. I can't do nothing. So, me and my dog, Tigger, he's my little campaigner. You'll find us out on Central every so often with my signs and his. His says, Cotton is a traitor, Boozman is a traitor, and one of mine says the GOP is a fascist Republican organization and they hate America. And I'm going to do that in spite of the fact that a lot of people won't join me because they're afraid they'll get shot. Well, I've not been shot at, I've been threatened, but I've had more people run from me than run at me. So I think but those guys in Little Rock need to. And the thing is, I knew in 2010, when the census was run, that if we didn't take over the House and the legislature in Little Rock, we were SOL. Because demographics are going to be rewriting the boundaries on all the voting districts. And if they were Republican, we were in trouble. And nobody seemed to listen because the House and the Senate were Republican. And we're in trouble. And now I'm, like I said, bitching ain't fixing. So anyway, that's my goal, is to change the rules and the road in Little Rock, because nobody's doing anything anyplace else. And I need your support. And I'm out on the street. You're welcome to join me. And Tater would love to be with you because he's my little buddy. And everybody here knows him. He's at the Democratic headquarters a lot. Thank you. All right.
All right. Last on the list, but certainly not in any other capacity that any of us can think of. Candidate for city director, Miss Karen Garcia.
Thank you very much. I am seeking re-election this year to my position on the city board of directors of this great city of Hot Springs. We have made some great accomplishments, but there are still projects left to do that I would like to be able to finish with another term. I am proud to say that I was a lead on getting the Hope Works program. There is a program that like this in Little Rock, and we implemented it here at the same year they did, and we've been increasing our commitment to that, and it gives work, daily work, to homeless to help and keep our city clean with picking up trash. And we have seen 127 people better their lives. Some at once already gotten a college degree, was able to finish. We have people that found full-time work through us helping connect them to those resources, and some in school and in permanent housing now. We're very proud of that. I led the H2O program, which is an assistance for those in need to help pay their water bill. When there's not enough money to go around, you don't want your water cut off. But there was not an assistance program for that, as there was electricity and natural gas assistance. So we began that program to help those in need. We extended the bus schedule, so those that are dependent on bus transportation can get to and from a job through longer hours as real work requires. And we need to finish our solar project. We were the second city in Arkansas, the sixth in the United States to commit to 100% energy by solar for the city of Hot Springs utilities. And we will continue with those solars till we are fully dependent on that solar energy. We have a new water plant and water system in from Lake Washita that will not be finished until the end of 2023. I've been working on that since I joined the board, and I really want to see that completed. We are, Aaron and I have been working on these projects along with the homeless shelter. We are almost ready to have something come before the board to get moving quickly, we hope, on a central resource center for homeless and warming cooling centers for those that are in need by being homeless. We implemented a portable shower for those that are homeless. We can move that around and to allow them to have the things they need and to take showers as they need. And we're working on the redevelopment of the former Majestic hotel property that is just down the street here, and we want to see that to fruition. There's a whole list, but those are the highlights. These are goals that we want to see finished. We care about all people. I stand for equality for all. And our city has passed resolutions to that effect. Whether the state legislator listen to us or not, we will keep sending them to them until they do. Thank you very much for those in the city of Hot Springs that need your support. And even if you don't live in my district, I love you all. I love Hot Springs. And Grant is going to, we have 3 items now for live auction that he will be auctioning off. We've got over $3,000 worth of items, but we still have a number of silent auctions when we take a break. We're not ready for that yet, but we want you to look at everything. All of that money goes to our candidates. All the money today goes to our Democratic candidates. we're doing that just to help our candidates. So please help us out there.
I think, do we still need to let Erin speak as a candidate? Or is she a candidate this time?
She's not up for reelection, but I am.
Okay.
But she supports me.
Is anybody else, people came sort of lined up and I was afraid I'd miss some candidates, but if I have not, then I guess.
They wanted to get a picture.
Oh.
Did they get the picture?
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes the candidates, but we have live auction.
We also have books. That reason roll.
Okay.
Take it home and read it and tell me to check that.
Okay. Are we starting off with the? All right. Fresh from 1992. It is an uptown bill. Do we know if it works? It is in the original packaging, which is a big deal with all of these things. Where shall I start, do we think, for Uptown Bill? Can I get $20? 20. Come on, somebody, there's $20. Anybody else? Come on, a little better than, your grandma be mad at me?
Yes.
25, thank you. Anybody else? 30? We got 30. 35, do I hear 35? 35. 40, is 40 out there? Someone there's 40. All right, 45, 45. See, jumped on the grenade. Please run a campaign. You don't need to be doing this. Somebody bail her out. I need $50 somewhere here. Come on, seriously, seriously. Fine, I'll pay $50. Anybody else?
It's $50 right here.
Well, he took me out for my Josh Price, ladies and gentlemen, a great American. All right, 55, last chance. 55 going once, 55 going twice. Sold. Josh. Say, or who on your car. This appears to be a flamenco dancer by local artist Red Adams. And somebody painted that. Can I get $50 to start? $50. Up. All the way in the back, $50. 55. Anybody? Anybody? Ooh, careful putting your purse over your head. You about bought that painting. 55. Anybody? Anybody? I know. Come on. We need to do better than 50. Anybody? Are we selling it? Do we have a reserve? Do we have an unmet reserve on this item? No. It's going to be sold here for $50. Somebody is getting a bargain. Going once. $75 right there. All righty. Do I hear 80? I mean, come on, he just stole it right out. Yeah, there's 80. I saw it. Yes. $80. What do you got there, big spender? No, it's not a campaign. Exactly. 85 going once. 85 going twice. $100 right there. Okay. Are we going to sell it for $100? Anybody else? 105. All right, 105 going, no, $100 going once. $100 going twice. Sold.
One at headquarters and this one, and I've already got it.
Ooh. Did you hear that?
I did hear that.
Well, that maybe.
So So this is an incredibly rare item, one of two. We, because of an early bid taken by telephone from Stad, we are going to have to open the bid at $505. Who's got it? Come on. Exactly. It opened at 505. We have a $500 bid. Again, 505. Anybody? Any interest? Any interest? All right, I guess the original bidder at $500 is now the proud owner of number 202. All right, I think that concludes our live auction, and I believe, good job, Mr. Hawkins, are you going to come and introduce our fishbowl moderator? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. It has been a wonderful afternoon to have each of you here. Come on, give yourself a round of applause. Excellent, excellent. If you bear with us about 60 seconds, we're going to set up right up here on stage for the fishbowl activity. And we're going to bring up the individuals for the fishbowl. The conversation will begin from there, okay? So now, while we're doing this, the silent auction table is to my right, your left. If you want to go and put another bid in for the silent auction, you can see Donna here at the back, the vice chair of the Garland County Democratic Party, and she will give you a number. You go over here where Karen Garcia and KEP are at the table. Look at all of the items on the table. Put down your silent bid. All $500 bids will receive an applause. So you have 60 seconds. I'm going to get this set up. And please keep in mind, Elmer Beard, our special guest earlier, has the table in the back with his books on that table. Please go back, support Brother Beard, get the book, read the book, share the book once you're done with it. Yeah, I have this in my hand. No, we don't do it like that. No, we can put it back there on top. All right. Then, ma'am, where is Jen? Yes. Come up. You're a reporter?
He's directing track.
Any seat. Don't worry about that minute. Any seat. Okay, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. I need one more. What? Fishbone. Okay. Oh, really?
I would like to let everyone know that, if you're interested in volunteering to help the candidates, you can go ahead and go, to the table and try and, sign up to volunteer, for one of the candidates.
Okay, everyone, I'd like for you to please return to your seats so that we can move into phase 2. Please, everyone, come back to their seats. Come back, come. I need everyone to come back to their seats. It is, son. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't start the second half until everyone has come back and sat down. We're asking you to please not leave. There are very important topics and conversations that we will have. Come as close down front as you can. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Paul Hawkins, and I am here to introduce the fishbowl moderator, my big brother Michael Anthony Hawkins.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tonight I will be your fishbowl moderator. Nice to meet everyone, and I hope we have a good discussion. My dad calls it fishbowl.
Well, it's not a fishbowl, but.
Okay, I would like to reiterate that each candidate will be given around 3 minutes to respond to each question. Keep it brief and straight to the point. Okay, so we're about to get started. Is everyone ready?
We need to make sure everyone speaks loudly. Keep in mind the live streaming and everyone from the front of the room to the back of the room needs to hear your response.
The first question is, who are you in your community if you are not a political figure? And I'd like to direct that towards Mr. Dan Reagan. Dave Reagan, excuse me.
Sir, the question again, please.
The question is, who are you in your community if you are not a political figure?
If I'm not a political figure in the community, I'm a guy who rides a bicycle up and down the street and gardens at the community garden. But I like to be a presence in the community. I like working with people. So I think it's an easy call for me to be in politics. I don't think there's anything foreign about politics at all to me. And I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy helping people get what they need, because there's a lot of people in this community who don't realize that there's all sorts of resources available to them through government. And government is intrinsically democratic because It just is when you think about it. When you come together and do things for the betterment of people, that's very democratic. The crabgrass will come out of your lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Reagan. The next question is, what does it mean to show up? Whether that means your online presence, your physical presence to support your community. And I'd like to direct this question towards Ms. Gaines.
What does it mean to show up? What it means to show up for me is to rise early in the morning, about 4 a.m., walk around the house, piddle a little, get my coffee, then get my clothes on and go out to the community garden. That's what showing up is for me. Showing up for me is being that garden lady in the community and working with the children with horticulture, teaching them how to grow food and how to sustain. On the media front, showing up is just talking encouragement and teaching about land law and issues that address us today regarding land. So on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I'm there. In the community, I'm somewhere playing in some dirt. So that's showing up for me.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
So, I'm pretty active online, as far as national talking points go. Love it. But showing up is not doing it online. It's not doing it online. It's being there and doing the work, not just to get elected. It's showing up and being there and doing the things that you want to do and that you care about, to make the world a better place, regardless of if you're campaigning or not. That's what I would say showing up is.
To me, showing up is getting out there, driving 50,000 miles across the state, talking to people, whether or not they're Democrats or independents or any other affiliation, and listening to the problems that they are willing to share with you and how you can actually address these problems at a larger scale in order to prevent these issues from spreading to other families. Showing up is being there, talking to people and listening to people. And it is important to also have a strong social media presence, because what we can do is we can bring a lot of the problems that we have here in Arkansas to the national level to show other people around the world. We've seen how social media can have repercussions against people within, committing injustices. We've seen racist sheriffs being openly, blatantly racist online, and then we've watched these videos go viral and had these Arkansas sheriffs removed from office. So there are absolutely good aspects to having a strong social media presence, but you really got to show up, be there in person, talk to people, and listen to their issues, and you are going to be able to represent them properly in any way.
Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. Anybody else? I think I want to put it in our culture, since it's Black History Month. How many of those that are from the African American community heard, "Don't make your mom come to show up and show out"? Many of us remember that statement. I can either come, show up, and show out for a good reason, or come, show up, and show out for a bad reason. And I want to just suggest to all the Democrats in the room, it is our time to come show up and show out for a good reason to make a difference in Arkansas. That's what I feel like it's time for. And so that's what comes to my mind when it comes to showing up. We have done it long enough, showing up and let other people show out. Now let us come together, show up and show out for good for Arkansas. That's what I think.
I'm going to piggyback off what Dr. Bland said real quick with a story, a practical story. So this last legislative session, there was a bill called SB 485. It would remove early voting on the Monday before the election. That is the most popular day of early voting in Arkansas. 58,000 people voted on that day. And that day's been in place for 25 years. But the Republicans suddenly had the idea they wanted to delete that day as an opportunity for people to go vote. They said if you wait until the last day of early voting, then you're procrastinating. Which explained that logic to me when it's still early voting. But anyway, I testified against that bill in committee 4 times. We got it killed 4 times. They brought it back 5 times. We actually called it the zombie bill. That was the nickname because we kept killing it and kept coming back. On the last day of the legislative session, last day, we had a rally at the Capitol. The Urban League was there, the NAACP was there, the ACLU was there, Indivisible, all these different groups. And we protested at the Capitol. There's probably 60, 70 of us. We lined up on the steps leading up to the House. The supermajority Republican House, right? So we're thinking, goodness gracious, this bill is going to pass. But we looked dead in the eye every single legislator that came up those steps. And we said, save our votes. Stop SB 485. And you know what? It failed. It failed. And that just shows me that when we show up and we show out, we can make good things happen here in Arkansas. We can because we're holding our politicians accountable and we're holding their feet to the fire and they're letting them know that it's not what they want to do, but they're supposed to be representing the voices of the people.
Thank you, Mr. Price. We're going to move on to the next topic now. This question is, how do you plan to combat the negative perception that last year's legislation projected on the LGBTQ plus community? And I'm going to direct this question towards Ms. Kelly Crowell.
Can you read it for me one more time? Oh, sorry.
It says, how do you plan to combat the negative perception that last year's legislation projected on the LGBTQ community?
It was a horrible thing to watch our legislation this last session picking on some of the most vulnerable people in our community and in our state. And I want to continue to stand up for people who don't have a voice in the legislature. They're not showing up necessarily at committee meetings because they've already got enough persecution and oppression in their lives that they're not going to be a part of that. So I'm going to spend a lot of time educating on the topic. I found as I spoke to people about the legislation, particularly the trans healthcare bill, and people simply didn't know what it was. They don't know what gender-affirming healthcare is. They assume that surgeries are being done on very young children and ridiculous things like this that are simply untrue. So a lot of times we have to meet people where they are, and that's part of showing up. I need to meet you where you are, understand what your understanding is of this topic, and then we can go from there. Because I do think most people want to do good. I think in a twisted way, they think that they're helping people, but they've gotten real lost along the path and now are actively hurting people. So we're going to stand up for the most vulnerable. We are going to educate and help people understand how what's being done is hurtful, and we're just going to do the right thing. It is not that hard to do the right thing.
Thank you, Ms. Crowell. Does anyone have anything to add to this topic?
I would just like to say that LGBTQ rights are human rights, and I'm tired of having this conversation. I really am. And we definitely have to stand up, just like Kelly said, we have to stand up for those who are vulnerable, and they definitely are. I mean, because they've been picked on. It's so weird. Anytime Republicans make a bill, it's always against somebody. It's against our kids, or against women, or against LGBTQ. I mean, they don't make laws for themselves. I just think that that's odd. But I would just say that LGBTQ rights, human rights, and let's end these discriminatory laws against different groups of people.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next topic. Oh, yes.
You should be up there. I'm a volunteer at the cat shelter here on Hobson, and a woman came in Wednesday dragging 3 suitcases, or not suitcases, but bags, garbage bags with stuff. And she was tired, exhausted, and wondered if she could buy a suitcase from us with wheels. She just sat down on the floor, and I went and got her a chair to sit on. She'd just been released from prison. She had a debit card. Somewhere in her stuff, she couldn't find it because it was all jumbled up. And we gave her a suitcase with wheels and settled her out and gave her, some clothing and freshness. but she'd been turned down at every shelter in Hot Springs because she's transgender. Now this, first off, releasing somebody from prison without a resource to go to is insane and inhumane. That has to stop. Our prison system needs to be upgraded and humanized because this is not allowable, not in a civilized society. This has to stop. And
Thank you very much. Just a quick announcement. We have to understand that the LGBTQ plus community is the largest minority in our state legislative body. All we have is Tippy, that's all. And I did want to let everyone know, especially watching the live stream in these different Facebook groups, Grant Smith is an LGBTQ voice that we can bring into our state legislative body. He is running for state representative in District 77 in Little Rock, so make sure you check him out as well at grantforarkansas.com.
And I just want to add, I think it's important that we begin to treat one another as humans. It's time out for the foolishness. And we know that our state has a history of being discriminatory towards differences. And, we don't have time for that anymore. It's time to do something new. It's time to do something fresh. It's time to cut through gender, sex, race, age. No more of that. We need to look at the core of humanity, and that's the soul of individuals. And at the least, everybody is worthy of equality. So it's time out for the foolishness. Let us rise above.
I'm totally jumping in here. One thing that I wanted to mention earlier, and it didn't cross my mind, but if you see my name tag here, I'm a board member on the Stonewall Democratic Caucus of Arkansas. And so some of you may not realize that that exists. We do have a caucus specifically to support openly LGBTQ plus individuals in elected office, but also to make sure that our elected officials know what's going on in the community and can support our community. So if you want to know anything about that, please let me know, but just know you can join the Stonewall Democrats as well, since you're all great Democrats here already. And you don't have to be gay. We want everybody to come because just like everyone has said here, we're talking about human rights, we're talking about supporting individuals. So I wanted to make sure you guys knew that Stonewall existed. So thanks.
So we're going to move on to the next topic, which is what is the role of government in public health? And I'd like to direct this question towards Mr. Whitfield.
Sure. So the question is, what is the role of our government when it comes to public health? There are a few things in our government where we really have to put capitalism to the side and put people first, put people before profits. And healthcare is absolutely one of those things. When it comes down to people's lives, having accessible healthcare is great. The Affordable Care Act saved so many lives. It saved my sister's life. She had had 2 brain surgeries, couldn't get insurance, needed a third, and she was going to die, and the Affordable Care Act saved her life. But the problem is it's still a private insurance, and it was written by health and pharmaceutical lobbyists and think tanks. It put people's lives first, but it put profits before people. The role of the government is to protect people, to keep us safe, and I believe that our healthcare should be one of those things that is completely handled by the government so that we don't allow the health and pharmaceutical companies to control the prices that we're paying for operations, for prescription drugs, and different things like that. I believe 87% of Americans support lowering prescription drug prices, but we can't get prescription drug prices lower because Republicans and unfortunately Democrats are taking money from the health and pharmaceutical industry and in exchange voting on legislation that keeps our drug prices high while keeping their profit margins enormous. Now, one thing that's really that I want to hit real quick on Healthcare for All is Healthcare for All does include a $200 per year prescription drug cap, which is extremely important, especially for diabetics and people who have to live on medicine. If you pay $200 for your first prescription in January, the rest of the year your prescription drugs are at no cost. healthcare for all is extremely important. I will be doing a live stream where I really go deep down into it because it'd take like over an hour to go into everything. But the facts is that it will save us money, it will save lives, and the only people who are against it are the lobbyists and think tanks that work for the health and pharmaceutical industry.
On the issue of public health, I think one of the things that the last 2 years has laid bare is the schism between the parties, Democratic and Republican parties, about how effective government can actually be. At their root, the Republican Party, a quote from P.J. O'Rourke was quite telling. They believe that the government has no role. Get off my back, and I can handle it myself. I think what we've learned with the coronavirus and COVID-19 pandemic is that government plays an extremely important role in public health, because there's certain things that only the federal government can coordinate logistically, financially, and deal with on a global scale. So I think that schism or that divide between the role of government is very, to me, it's settled. Is that for public health, when you're talking about millions of Arkansans, millions of Americans nationwide, the role of government's clear. Now, the problem is in our state, in our legislature, that they deem the role of public health to be somewhat restrictive. We want to say you can't mandate masks. We want to say you can't mandate vaccinations. You can't, all of these things that are wrapped in the guise of freedom are really authoritarian. They really are. They're wanting someone's individual desire to override public health. It's wrong. Whether it's masks in schools, whether it's vaccinations, we have gone down the rabbit hole of public health, and it's shameful. This should have been a unifying issue for our country, and instead it's just laid bare those political divisions, and it falls at the feet of Republicans.
Michael, may I speak on that issue? I had the privilege of serving 2 terms on the Public Health Committee in the state legislature. Got to look at lots of bills that came through the legislature 15 years ago, kind of seeing where things were headed. Back then, we made it our #1 goal to make sure that we protected seniors and the health care they were getting. And it was always under attack and under assault. Now, though, with expanded health care, you hear a lot of people talking about falling back on those very things that we protected as though it was their idea. It was Democratic presidential administrations that gave us Medicaid, Medicare, that gave us what I refer to as a safety net. When I was 2 years old, my dad was placed in a mental hospital for mental illness. He was married to my mother, and she had to leave being a stay-at-home mother and go enter the workforce. It was very difficult and very traumatic. She remained married to my dad for 31 years. But the government was there to meet us at the point of our need. We had food stamps that we were able to get. We were also able, my dad was found disabled, and because of that, Medicaid kicked in. And we were able to get health care all the years we were poor. And without that health care in place, I would not have had adequate health care growing up. So I think it's fine to look at expanding health care. The other side of that coin, and it's something we really stress, is state government has to be efficient. It will be a terrible thing the day that we lose health care because the government fails because it's trying to be all things to all people. We have to be very careful of that. And so I want to be very careful with that. Government running healthcare, I don't think government runs just about anything very well at the federal level, and they create a lot of bureaucracy. So I always look at that with a great deal of skepticism that the government can run that well. I do believe in private and public partnerships. I think that's very important. But we got to protect the safety net that was there for me, because that's the ultimate. We've got to make sure that people that are trapped in poverty, that they can have the health care that they need, that the elderly can have Medicare, and that there's going to be funding for these people who are in need. So we have to make sure that the government is run efficiently and in such a way, and that it is accountable And in doing that in Arkansas, I believe that we can achieve healthcare. Let me tell you why I think it's critical. The last presidential administration, they have all these ideas where it sounds really good. So if you work, then you get these benefits. Or, if you do this, you get that. 12,000 poor Arkansans were cut from the Medicaid roll because our economy's thriving, right? Because we lifted them from poverty and they no longer needed Medicaid. That was what happened, right? No, because the government put another burden on the back of the poor so that they had to fill out more paperwork to get the same benefits they were getting. As governor, we will restore those 12,000 people back on the Medicaid roll, and we will make sure that people that are in need have health care. It was there for me. How could I do less?
I stand for equality for all, and that includes health care. I'm not afraid to say I support the single payer system for our health care. And I know that that hasn't been popular with everybody, but I think that's the right thing to do. A few months ago, my husband passed away after a long terminal illness. And for the past 9 years, I've gone in and out of the healthcare system in trying to maneuver, is what it wound up being, in dealing with the adequate care for him. I even had to leave some doctors. My husband was Hispanic, and even doctors have some discrimination practices, and they do not look at everybody equally. It took 2 years just to get a diagnosis. And then being on Medicare, some of his medication, we had the supplemental for the prescriptions. After 6 months, it wouldn't pay anymore. And for this, we're paying through Social Security withdrawal for Medicare, then a medical supplemental, and then a separate supplemental for medication for the prescription drugs program. Why can't the government negotiate for reduced prices for everyone on Medicare? If a company can with 100 employees, why can't they for millions of people? I don't understand it other than the pharmaceuticals has the #1 and insurance #2 spots for lobbyists up in DC. That's not right. I care about the health care of everybody and keeping everybody healthy. And I wouldn't want anyone to have to maneuver some of the processes I had to go through. And everyone can't come up or find the resources to pay the extra costs that aren't covered. In dealing with 3 different entities just to have coverage for medical, a supplemental medical for the 20%, and for the prescriptions. Then if we wanted dental or vision, it was 2 other companies. So I am a supporter of single pay and health care for everyone.
Michael, that's one other thing about our seniors. The last 2 legislative sessions, staffing requirements have been cut at nursing homes, and it's getting critical. We've got to protect our seniors. We've got to keep staffing numbers high. Sometimes nursing homes are necessary, but we need to look at home health care. We need to make sure that people can stay in their homes as long as necessary. But if they have to go to nursing homes, they need to be met with a well-staffed, a very well-staffed nursing home so that it's not profits over people and over healthcare for our seniors.
So it's very important. I'm sure some of y'all are on Medicare. You know what Medicare is like. You have the supplements. It's expensive depending on your income. It can cost more money. If you're on a fixed income, your property is assessed at higher value, then they can increase the cost of your benefits as well. The problem is Medicare doesn't work, and we've seen it doesn't work. And with Medicaid, I've been on Medicaid. Medicaid sucks. It's hard to get, to even find a provider who will talk to you. They ask, the first thing every single time you call a doctor, what insurance do you have? Medicaid? We don't accept Medicaid. And you call and call and call and call. And then you finally find someone who accepts it, and it's 1 or 2 or 3 months out to get an appointment, even just for a child to see a dentist. Medicaid doesn't work. Medicare doesn't work. We have to try something different. A lot of people don't know Medicare for All, or Healthcare for All, as I like to call it, because it's nothing like Medicare. It's a terrible choice of name. It covers in-home healthcare at no cost. In-home healthcare, $200 prescription drug costs. If you are currently if your household income is less than $29,000 per year, if you're currently on Medicaid or Medicare, it's no cost to you. The average household income in Arkansas, $48,000. What we pay for it is 4% of your income after $29,000. So you take $48,000, subtract 29, and then 4% of that is $660 per year. The average Arkansan home will pay to cover everyone in their home with no premiums, deductibles, or copays. We have to do something else. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to education. And this question is directed towards Ms. Nally. Okay. What do you think can be done to improve education in Arkansas schools, specifically historically Black colleges and universities?
Greetings. My name is China Mellon. I am the CEO and founder of Cultural Emerging Media at TV Network, and we also do educational consulting and programming. I'm also a professor at Maryland National College, and I teach social justice, so this is a great question. What do I think we can do to better education? It's as far as being a teacher, or what am I asking for as far as students? Oh, awesome. What we have to create, kind of like what we're doing right now, discussion-based interaction, right? So a lot of times we have this idea of what we call deposit style learning, where we kind of just lecture to students and we just give them information and tell them it over and over and over and over again and expect them to remember and hold on to the language. But we actually need interactive language, right? So we give them activities, we ask them critical questions, and then it's okay if they get the wrong answer or an answer that we're not comfortable with. We work around the answer and ask them how they got to it and other ways to navigate it, right? So we really need interactive learning and realistic situations to give them. Because if we give them fictional or fairy tale situations, as I like to put it, when they come into those real life situations, they don't know how to respond, right? I always like to tell, and this is Black History Month, I'll tell you all as well. I always tell my students that Black history is American history. When you separate yourself, that's why you feel isolated. Your history is their history. Stop thinking that it's yours alone. It's our history. It's our shared experience together. So Black History Month is for everybody. So know what your history is. Learn about yourself and go find out something. That's that.
Well, as many of you know, it's on Channel 7, I was very passionate about education because I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. I've been in the education system for 22 years. And I believe in our students from not just pre-K, but Head Start, from birth until you decide, hey, it's time for me to sit down somewhere. And even it actually goes beyond that. It goes beyond just when you graduate from college or you get your career. It is also, there are elders out there that want to be educated. They want to learn about technology. They want to learn how to do different things that they do not know. So our education does not just begin at pre-K. It starts at birth and Head Start. We need to invest in every student there is. Every student. That includes somebody that's 80 years old that is a student. I used to teach in the college system. I had students that were 70 years old. I taught martial arts. My oldest student was 89. Education doesn't stop or start just because you become a certain age. It doesn't start or stop just because you're not in pre-K. Education is our foundation, and it's all about every individual. There are a lot of people that roll their eyes at you and turn their noses up at you, even as an educator. All you're doing is trying to help children, kids that can't help themselves. So why are you so against supporting educators? We're here to love and nurture and educate and prepare. That's it. So education, to me, is the foundation. It is very important. Healthcare, along with education. Sorry, because I agree with all of them that are on this stage, because I have a mother that's diabetic. I have a niece that is autistic. I have seen people go to hospitals and get turned away just because they didn't have health care that they paid for out of their pocket. But if you watch the news, all of a sudden those bodies end up in the backs of U-Haul because they did not have health care. When are we going to stand up for people and for what's right? People over politics. People over money. I would rather see a person have a place to lay their head than to have a bunch of money in my political campaign. I'm sorry, there you go. Thank you.
I have to weigh in. I love education. Education is definitely important. When I graduated high school, I immediately went back and worked in the same education system that groomed me as a substitute teacher. Years later, after getting my MBA in business, I had an opportunity to then be an adjunct faculty business professor at Philander Smith College. And you said specifically HBCUs. So in the classroom, what I would see was nervous children, high anxiety, broken, not even knowing where they're going to get their next meal or how they were going to get back to work or whether or not they would have money to pay for their books. In my classroom, not only did I have an opportunity to feed them knowledge of that particular subject, but I also had an opportunity to nurture their spirit man. Our children need more support. They need emotional and spiritual grounding. When they feel like they're drowning, you giving them a couple of more days to finish their assignment is just not sufficient. It requires more. It requires our time. It requires our dedication and our willingness to pour back into our children, something that education can't do from that spiritual point or that emotional point. I also had an opportunity to not only teach traditional classes, but also adult education classes. And you find much of the same disparities, trying to connect with this current technology. When I went into Philander Smith College teaching PSMI courses, adult courses, I found that I went in having to do everything contingency. That means they were still doing their papers, writings, giving me papers written with pen and pencil. No. I had to work with them to get them up to par, to bring them on that same streamline as the rest of the college, as the traditional students. They needed to be lifted up and guided. So I think in that sense, what more can we do? We go out of our way, because it wasn't my responsibility to get them acclimated to a school program that they had not already been acclimated to. But I stopped and I did that. I used part of my class time to make sure they knew how to navigate on the online system. So again, I think it takes heart. I think it takes time and dedication. And that's something that you don't get paid for. So, yes.
Next, we might have to move on to the next topic. I can't let education pass by. When I was majority leader, we had Lead Arkansas, lower healthcare costs, early childhood education, accountability in state government, and decreased crime and repeat offense rates. That's what we did. We got legislation passed on each of those agenda items. Early childhood education, as Dr. Bland said, really is key. We've got to make sure that every child, regardless where they're met, where they're from, if they're from Ives Walk, neighborhood that I've ministered to in the inner city, that they're met with the same excellence in early childhood education to prepare them for kindergarten, because now they're doing real stuff in kindergarten, right? So by the time you're in first grade, you're going to have to be ready. So we have got to emphasize early childhood education. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay. We have two more topics. Let's keep it quick. The first topic is toward Mr. Gibson. Okay, this is an interesting question. Great. The state of Arkansas, the state budget, and climate change. I want you to draw a correlation between those three.
More time.
The state of Arkansas as a whole, the budget, and climate change.
I think you can begin and end with our state legislature and our state budget. I think the issue with climate change is whether we as a state can do much, or we have any desire or political appetite to do much. And we can't really egg that on or spur that on without voting and changing the makeup of that legislature. I don't see a lot of appetite in the 70 some odd Republican representatives and senators. So I think it's going to take movement at the ballot to get anything done on climate change, even what we can do within our state. That's got to change. It starts with people in this room. It starts with people all around the state standing up for what I think is one of our great resources here in Arkansas. You know, we all have friends that from outside of the state who visit. Without fail, they always remark to me, what a beautiful, wonderful state. They're always seemingly surprised at what our small state has to offer. But it takes will, and it takes effort, and it takes people who want to preserve that. And that's going to have to start at the ballot.
So the state of Arkansas, the natural state, right? And as other resources become depleted in other states, it makes Arkansas more and more attractive because of what we have. And like Jesse was talking about, we have millions of visitors to the state of Arkansas, to the natural state every year. And they want to see the natural state, and they spend billions of dollars here. So I'm not running for our visitors, but I love Arkansas and I love our natural resources. And as far as, you know, climate change goes, there's all kinds of things that we can do for climate change. And almost every single one of them makes economical sense for our budget. So it's an easy correlation right there. That's it.
Okay, we'll take one more statement from Mr. Whitfield and move on to our last topic.
I think this is a perfect question for me because, as Mr. Gibson had said, there's not a lot we can do at the state level right now because, unfortunately, the GOP controls our state and they're more interested in the fossil fuel industry than us and what's best for our planet. Now, fortunately, at the federal level, there are a lot of things I can do to help combat climate change, such as possibly maybe we should reallocate subsidies going towards the fossil fuel industry, $1 trillion industry, and put that money towards renewable industries. And by reallocating that money, we can put solar panels on every home, every business, every school, so that within just a few years, we wouldn't have to subsidize the fossil fuel industry anymore. But it's really going to take a lot of politicians with political courage, people willing to stand up to the fossil fuel industry, to turn down that money, and to actually fight for different policies that are going to protect our planet, because And if you all don't know, we are in the middle of the sixth mass extinction on our planet. If we don't do something aggressive, large, just the biggest investment in our planet's future as we could possibly do right now, we will not leave a habitable planet to our future generations.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to our last question, which is, how serious do you think the threat to our democracy is? And I'm going to give that question to Ms. Shannon.
Hi, my name is Shannon McGill. I'm a published author. I'm a comms manager for Kelly for Arkansas, substitute teacher, and a high school softball coach. The threat of democracy is a serious thing. It's serious because it takes away a lot of our citizens' personal safety. It takes away an ideal that we've been building up for children. It gives them the idea that we have not had the right amount of leadership to continue to build something for them and for our future. Did I answer that correctly? Yeah, okay, there we go.
All right, I want to start with this. January 6, 2021 says that we have a threat to our democracy. I'll say that again. January 6, 2021 showed that we had a threat to our democracy. The United States Capitol was rushed with people that threatened our democracy. So are we a threat? Yes. Yes, we are. What are we going to do about it? That's the question. When I grew up and come up through school, they used to tell us, yeah, we have all of these problems. We talk about all the problems that we have. What are the solutions? What are you going to do about it? And when you do get a solution, are you going to sit up and argue about the solution, or are you going to do something about it? You have a chance in May and in November to get rid of those people that are destroying our democracy. They want a dictatorship. They don't want a democracy. They want to put a person back in office that created January 6th and refused to admit that he created January 6th. So guess what? All of these people on stage that are running as Democrats are ready to make a difference, to make a change for the right of the people. We got to stand together. Division is not the answer. I'm asking, I'm begging you, all of you in Arkansas, please stand up for democracy, not dictatorship. Thank you.
Now, I talked about this a little bit when I introduced myself, but our democracy is severely under attack in this country. 19 states have passed laws making it harder for people to vote. 19 states. And when I'm talking about making it hard for people to vote, just not minorities, just not people of color, but seniors, people with disabilities, people like my mom who has severe arthritis, and just had a stroke a few weeks ago and has a shaky right hand now. I saw, during my time as election commissioner in Pulaski County, we had an instance where an 85-year-old woman who had a stroke did not have a matching signature because of her condition. She had a letter from her doctor. She had a letter from her husband. Both of these letters were notarized, and her vote was still thrown out. The two Republicans outvoted me and threw it out. I said, how could you do this? How could you do this? They said, well, we're not doctors. I said, you've got a letter from a doctor. What's the problem? Well, we are seeing this all across our country. There's a Democratic Association of Secretaries of State. I've been on calls with them for the last several months. I've talked to Secretary of State candidates in Georgia, in Texas, in Ohio, in Nevada, in Arizona, in Pennsylvania. It's the same issue all across the country. These voter suppression bills being passed are plug and play. You can take out the word Arkansas and stick Georgia in its place. In Arkansas now, you can't bring snacks or water to give to somebody in line. You can't bring your children to go with you to vote. If someone has already voted and they're going to help you because maybe you have a disability or you have arthritis, if they've already voted, they can't help you. They're comparing your signature now when you vote to your signature the first time you registered to vote when you might have been 18 years old. And I'm 42, and my signature doesn't look anything like it did when it was 18. So imagine someone in their 70s or 80s. So I'm actually part of a lawsuit right now with Mark Elias. He's the election lawyer that's suing all the states to have those bills thrown out as being unconstitutional. But this is happening all across our country and even here in Arkansas. I want people to realize just how vital it is that we get out to the polls and make our voices heard, because only by putting in folks like these that are going to protect our right to vote and protect the sanctity of our democracy are we going to be able to move forward. Because if we cannot have the right to vote, we don't have anything else here. We don't have anything else. I told you what happened to my mom in the Philippines. That happened like that. Their democracy went away like that. And we almost saw it happen on January 6th as well. So we all got to get out there and make our voices heard and elect people that are going to protect our sacred American right to vote and the sanctity and integrity of our democracy.
First off, we don't actually have a democracy, we have a republic. We don't have a guarantee to have a right to vote. That's something we've always fought for, always, the whole history of our country. I was really going to say something important, but, and like Josh said earlier about them to cancel that day that most Arkansans go to vote on, there's no reason behind that, except they don't want you to vote. Because they don't want to be held accountable, they don't want to be replaced, and they don't want to do any of the work. And it's about time maybe we were a democracy, but it's extremely important that we all have the right to vote and that we all exercise the right to vote.
We're going to take one last statement.
I want her to have a say, but I just want to say real quick, the reason they don't want poor people, minorities, old people to vote is because there's more of us than there are of them. Amen. That's the reason.
Well, I'm excited because we're going to turn this thing around. We know that our democracy is under attack. We're going to do exactly what we need to do to rebuild the walls of democracy. We're going to organize and mobilize. We're going to step outside of our comfort zones, and we may be on some phones. We may be canvassing some communities. We may even be helping our seniors make sure that their absentee ballots are straight and have everything that it needs. But I just think that it's very important that we stand up in this season, even as a party. You know, somewhere in there we got broken and we got bruised. Somewhere in there we decided to lay down. But now it's time to get up. This is the perfect season. And yes, do we have to fight? Yes, we do have to fight. We are a loving people. That's just been the history of our party. We love people and we're concerned about people. But now we have to fight in a different way. We got to have a little bite to it. We're going to be loving, but we're going to bite because it's required in order for us to save the walls of democracy and rebuild. So let's do it.
Okay, that will be my closing statement to the official. I want to extend a personal thank you to the audience and the candidates for giving me the opportunity to participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. You did a great job. Let's hear it for this young man. What candidates? Thank you. Thank you. I was asked if I would also remind you that on the 27th, afternoon, beginning at 2 o'clock at the Central Theater. If you came in from the south, you came right beside Central, 1008 Central Avenue. The Virginia Clinton Kelly is sponsoring a documentary there next Sunday, Langston High School Before and After Integration. This is an important documentary about Langston High as you've never heard or seen before. And it is the before integration in Hot Springs, it was the all-black high school. and people that lived it. And one lady I just left to death, Miss Minnie Lennox, is a part of this. And you need to hear these stories. You need to see this documentary, and if you can at all come by there, please come at the Central Theater. Chris Ricks, who owns that, is partnering with the Virginia Clinton Kelly Democratic Women, and we really want you there. And bring your friends, tell anybody about it. These are important stories. Also, the silent auction will be closing, and please come by there and claim your winnings and pay for those. Every penny goes into the candidate fund to make donations to our candidates. Don't forget that. And yes, everyone running for office, but that's how it takes money to get them elected, and we want to help them do that. And each of them will appreciate the contributions that you have. We want to thank everyone that helped today, and I'm going to call the man that made it happen, and he made it a family affair, which I think is just awesome. Mr. Audrey Hawkins. And I was asked to also inform you, any friend in Hot Springs would know, we just lost one of our former mayors and a former Democratic candidate for House Representative, Helen Seelig. So keep John and the family in your prayers. And we're thankful those that came before us that made a way. She was the second female mayor of Hot Springs. Even now, in my district, I'm the first female to have served at that position. It blows my mind sometimes when you hear the first woman or the first minority. But unfortunately, there has to be a first in all of these, so you pave the way for everybody else. I think, Mr. Audrey, can you just come on and let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to thank each and every member of the committee. One, for putting up with me. Donna clapped. Donna can tell you it was not easy. Karen can tell you it was not easy. Everyone out there who's on the committee can tell you it was not easy. But I do believe what took place today made every bit of it work. And I want to thank our candidates. I want to wish each and every one of you all the luck there is. Raise all of the money that there is out there. Go to every event, every activity. Don't worry about sleeping. You can sleep when you get elected like everybody else in DC did. And all of the people who participated, I would like to thank you, because we could not have made this, and I would call it a success, to gather, to fill this room, and to hear what these people behind me had to say. They laid the foundation today for everyone who heard them to begin to make good decisions. We hear about John Lewis saying, go out and get in good trouble. In order to get in good trouble, you have to make good decisions. And so the foundation was laid today by these individuals on this stage, that we would make good decisions, that we might go out and get in good trouble. And so I thank each of them, and I thank each of you. I have two special gifts that I would like to give out today. Christine. we would like to thank the proprietor of this venue for opening her door, allowing us to come in and have this event here. When we spoke on the phone, she said whatever day. When we spoke later, she said whatever time. When I told her we needed to come out and lay things out and make sure we knew what we were doing, she said whatever you needed to do. And when we showed up here, she directed traffic to make sure we didn't stay too long. And so we thank you so much. And then our morning moderator, our chair of the state party, the man who stepped in and who has begun to take the state of Arkansas's Democratic Party out of major debt, who's bringing organizational structure and development to the state, who is allowing us to go our way with good counsel, but to go our way and do what is necessary to get individuals on the ballot and in office in Arkansas. Mr. Grantanil, I would like to say thank you to you for being our moderator and our auctioneer. And last but certainly not least, stand up, boy. I can do that. As a point of personal privilege, that is my son, of whom I am well pleased. It is. I'm proud.
Yes. All right. All right.
I was in my I'm old, man. I'm 53. Now I have a 7-year-old out there who's reminding me of my knees and my back and my arms and my neck. My 17-year-old is a freshman at Philander Smith College. He's an engineering major, and notified me when I picked him up Thursday that he had just received a scholarship and internship with the Department of Defense for this coming summer. I don't know where he's going, but wherever it is, I'm in the back seat. I think we have covered it all. I think we've said it all. So we can now stand and be dismissed. Anything else? Anything else? All minds clear? Okay.
Hey, y'all.
Thank you
so much for joining us.
Everyone have a wonderful evening.
I did want to
enjoy
clarify real
yourself
quick that
and look for
America-
our next event. It's coming up soon.
We are not a democracy. We're a representative republic. And the problem is that our representatives no longer represent us. They represent their special interest owners. And they actually vote on legislation that benefits the donors while hurting us, their constituents. But thank you guys so much. My name is Dan Whitfield. DanForArkansas.com is my website. You can check out all my different policies there. Make sure to drop a couple dollars if you can and donate. You guys have a wonderful night. May God bless you all. And may God bless America.
That's a lot.